Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni.
Yes.
One of our stars.
Good morning, Ruben.
Emmanuel.
Good morning, Rufai.
Yeah.
Morning.
Good morning, Tundu. Bright and beautiful. I don't want to take courses in colors. I leave that to Ruben. Now, let's start with these newspapers. Nigeria's newspaper of records. The lead story. We can't be intimidated, says PDP as Umahi defects to APC. Board of Trustees chairman urges party to negotiate with Southeast. Elders. National caucus meet today ahead of NEC meeting. Yes, David Umahi. This has been in the works for some time. I would have called it an uncommon defection, but that title is reserved for my brother from the Niger Delta, Godswill Akpabio. This has been in the works for some time, but the reason being given by David Umahi, yes, in one breath he said it's not going there, it's going there because the Southeast has not been fairly treated by the PDP. He denies that he has been offered presidential tickets because I'm not aware that the APC has zoned its presidential ticket to any zone. But defection, moving from party to party, is part of the character of the Nigerian politician until they will change their color. But for now, it is part of the character of the Nigerian politician. But to be fair to Umahi, he has been very chummy with President Muhammadu Buhari. But why he did not summon the courage to move before the 2019 election, perhaps that would have been more salutary and resounding than what he has done now after enjoying all the perks, winning all the elections at the state level on the platform of the PDP. Now, the PDP has not treated the Southeast fairly. But we'll see how this will pan out in the days ahead. Because if the APC, at the end of the day, failed to zone its presidential ticket to the Southeast, that would be a heavy blow. But we are also aware that the PDP seems to be waiting for APC to make the move in the zoning issue before it takes a decision. We'll see how it pans out. But the News Direct, Nigerian News Direct newspaper, also reporting this story, puts it this way: I want to be sacrificed to achieve Igbo presidency, Governor Umahi. So if he doesn't get it, if another Igbo man gets it, why not? Then he must have made some sacrifice. What if it turns out that it's the PDP that is putting up an Igbo candidate at the end of the day? A lot of postulations and theory to look forward to in the countdown to the 2023 presidential polls. Still far away anyway. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper broke federal government, state governments, scavenge for survival. Federal government spends 67% of revenue on debt service to seize unclaimed dividends, dormant bank accounts. 10 states stall minimum wage implementation. Cost of governance too high, says Pat Utomi. Nigeria living above its means, Chike Obi. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, the lead story: End SARS protests can't happen again. Police take over Africa Shrine. The Vanguard newspaper also has this story: I won't allow repeat of End SARS protests. Buhari, as security chiefs, express concern over bandits, kidnappers' activities in North. Police surround African shrine to prevent NSAS meeting. Court grant NSAS protester Romosele 1 million naira bail. NSAS, government must dialogue with youth. APC governors insist. And the Daily Sun newspaper also reporting the story. NSAS, Buhari talks tough, says he won't allow repeat of protests. Nigeria's corporate existence not negotiable. President. He responded appropriately to NSAS issues. APC governors, be careful on clamp down. Reps caucus warns. Now, insecurity in the country. The Daily Trust newspaper. Kidnappers demand 270 million ransom for 9 ABU students. That's the Abubakar Ahmadu Bello University students. I never knew I would survive. Driver. Multiple attacks, claim 16 lives in 4 Kaduna local governments. Bandits have been degraded. Police Affairs Minister. And that happens to be the story also on the front page of the Punch newspaper, where groups hit federal government over claim bandits have been degraded. Of course, the Minister of Police Affairs, Muhammad Dangyadi, made that claim, that bandits have been degraded, when only a couple of days ago, the Kaduna-Abuja highway was taken over by armed men who kidnapped and raped women in the process at will. Now, these groups are saying that in itself is not correct for the minister to say that bandits have been degraded, because this term degraded has been misused when it comes to the fight against insurgency and banditry, as we have seen in the past. Now, the Guardian newspaper, air travel targets 35% traffic as European carriers resume. Federal government lifts ban on Lufthansa, Air France, KLM. Qatar amid second wave. Enugu reopens to local travel. That's the Enugu International Airport. Now, the foreign newspaper, the Guardian newspaper of UK. Yes, this is the Guardian newspaper of UK. I repeat, revealed fast track for PPE firms with political connections. Damning report finds multiple shortcomings in the UK government £18 billion contract process. Yes, PPE suppliers with political connections were directed to a high priority channel for UK government contracts, where bids were 10 times likely to be successful. That is in the UK, not in Africa, I repeat. Now, if we look at the Times of London, it's a story that should worry all oil-producing countries like Nigeria. Petrol and diesel ban from 2030. End of sales of polluting cars brought forward. Yes, Boris Johnson is carrying out what he calls his green revolution, which he will unfold today. And the Daily Mail newspaper puts it this way. End of the road for petrol and diesel cars in just 9 years. Yes, the sale of cars, petrol and diesel, and diesel cars will end in 2020. No new petrol or diesel car will be sold from that date. And 5 years after that, hybrid vehicles, that's vehicles using electric and petrol at the same time, will also be banned from the UK. So for those who are still living on petrol revenue, like Nigeria, we had better be warned. Now, finally, in the Washington Post, yes, the lead story, US to reduce troops abroad. Courts ordered in Afghanistan and Iraq. Some worry move will undercut Taliban talks. Yes, President Donald Trump's promise to end all wars. Perhaps he wants to bring that to fruition in the twilight of his administration. No second term there. And he has ordered the cuts in the number of troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, while many analysts believe this may undermine the ongoing talks between Taliban and the Afghan government with a view to bringing peace to that country. Ruben, Rufai, and my dear Tundu.
You people won't give up. Tundu, dear Tundu, maybe you should go first.
Well, I like that little dig that you made there about this scandal that's brewing in the UK with the shocking lack of competition, the shoddy procurement procedure that has made a fortune for several people with political affiliations. It's what is usually, linked to Africa, and here we have them behaving in this fashion. But Dr. Abati and the rest of us have discussed numerous times how, even in a crisis like COVID-19, there's some people who have made a mint. They've made out like bandits, to use the popular phrase that we have in Nigeria at the moment. And I agree with you, what you said about Dave Umahi, I mentioned that earlier. It made me feel slightly cynical, I have to say, that he's making this bold move in his second term. If he wanted to be praised for boldness, he could have done it during his first term. Then let's see if he's going to get a ticket or not. It does seem somewhat self-serving, and especially throwing the entire party under the bus, saying that they didn't serve the the Southeast interests. That might be true. It might not be true. But as a parting shot, it seems somewhat ungracious, and especially when APC has not defined their own position, at least publicly. So is that something that he knows that the rest of us don't know? Is APC going to become this huge vanguard for the Southeast interest all of a sudden? Well, it remains to be seen.
Well, quickly, there's one story you brought up about President Buhari promising that he will not allow a repeat of NSAS protests. Well, maybe perhaps the headlines are misleading, because the truth of the matter is that I do not want to imagine that the president being quoted as having said that he will not allow it will translate into an abbreviation of the average Nigerian's freedom of association, freedom also to express themselves on issues that concern all of us. The person that addressed the press after a meeting of the National Security Council that was held yesterday was the Minister of Police Affairs. And it was good to see him speaking up. Some of these ministers, they are just there, nobody knows them. So occasionally they just show up. So I was quite happy that at least we have a Minister of Police Affairs who has a voice, who has been suddenly been given the opportunity to show that he also has a voice. But the point he was making is that the president is going to commit himself to dialogue, that the president will carry stakeholders along, and that, the government is committed to being democratic and ensuring justice. Now, if that is the sense in which the president spoke and the minister addressed the press, that is a very welcome development, because indeed the best way to prevent any other NSAS protest is to engage with the people, to meet the demands of the people, and to rebuild confidence and trust in government. But the problem we have with this assurance from the National Security Council, as communicated by the Minister of Police Affairs, was that even as the minister was addressing the press, there was an issue at the African Shrine in Lagos, where Seun Kuti, the last son of the legendary Fela Anikulapo Kuti, had wanted to have a meeting around NSAS, some kind of review, and had also promised to relaunch his father's movement of the People Party. And the police from the Alausa police station wrote to his elder sister, Yeni Kuti, and said there must be no meeting in that place. Now, why can't somebody have a meeting in a family space with whoever? Are they saying that, Seun Kuti has no right to form a political party, the movement of the people, even if it was already an existing party that was founded by his father? So these contradictions, confuse people and make it very difficult for people to believe that the government is sincere. And by the way, the letter that was written by the DPO in charge of the Alausa police station, I think we need to deconstruct it. Maybe OG will bring it before us, because it's an example of how not to write English. And it is disgraceful, because the Commissioner of Police in Lagos, Akim Odumosu, he even wrote a book on principles of English.
Okay.
The Commissioner of Police has reached a point that maybe we need to be organizing language clinics for the men who are representing him in the various police stations. What kind of letter was that? Instead of feet, they wrote foots. Every line was disastrous.
Dr.
And that's disgraceful.
You picked up your red biro. Was that a force of habit?
This is fine. Let's off the mic there. We're just going to move. I want to talk about something very pertinent, and I saw it in the paper. Security, the 12 police officers abducted that we are still looking into. And what happened yesterday at Apple Junction is still very volatile and up in the air. They said that a task force came to seize a couple of motorcycles.
Motorbikes, yes.
And what happened afterwards was mayhem in that area. It's quite shocking. Please, let's just temper things down. But Dr. Batitu, I would like to see those letters.
Yes, so double check. It's available online.